Let's go straight for the throat. You've been told your whole life that if you work hard, perform well, and stay consistent, you'll get promoted, right? But what if I told you that's not actually how it works? And I'm pretty sure there are many of you that are listening to us. What if performance is not the deciding factor, but trust is? Today, we're unpacking the hidden currency of success that nobody talks about, but everyone judged. And we are judged by.
Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments, the best growth mindset podcast, recognized by Million Podcasts and ranked as a top mindset podcast by FeedSpot. We're proud to be in the top 1% on Listen Notes. Join Dr. Alisa Whyte as we explore powerful insights and strategies to elevate your mindset. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Mindset Mastery Moments. We're keeping this real and tight today. I'm your host, of course, Dr. Alisa Whyte, the #1 mindset disruptor. And this is where we challenge the way you think so you can elevate how you lead, live, and win. Because let's be honest, some of you are overperforming and still you're overlooked. That's not a performance issue. That is a positioning issue. Today's guest brings over 30 years of Fortune 100 executive HR experience across healthcare, energy, and academia. She's led corporate startup launches, transformed onboarding systems that earned national recognition. And now she helps leaders understand what actually drives advancement at the highest levels. She is the founder of YK Davis Consulting Group and Trust Advantage Academy. And she's also the author of an amazing new book, The Trust Advantage. Let's get into it. Yolanda, welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments. Sister, I am so happy to finally be able to sit down with you. Tell us who you are in your own words, what you do, and why you do it.
Absolutely. So what I do is I work with organizations and leaders, basically helping them define what success looks like. And as I stated, and as you mentioned, we help organizations build that culture of trust, helping them understand that trust is an operating system. It's not just a culture, correct? It is part of a system. Just like many of the other systems, we have financial systems, we have procurement systems in the organizations, we have all these systems in place, but no one ever looked at trust. And so I have, as you stated, spent 30 years and I've been on both sides. I've been in the boardroom and I've been on the other side trying to be promoted. And so I started my journey as an executive in my early 30s, and being the only woman in the boardroom really shaped who I am today.
Being the only woman in the boardroom. And if we can say, sometimes there's that other layer of being the only person of color in the room. We experience that too, right?
Yes,
So here's
not
the
only
question.
that.
Yeah, so in this case, we would say work hard. Let's address this. Why is hard work not enough? Because high performers, we get passed over too, like more than people know. You see us here, like where you were the only woman of color, the only person of color in the room, but that you didn't just get there. Like you had to, again, we say work hard, but then as I said in the intro, there's strategy. So tell us about why are high performers getting passed over a lot in their work as they pursue getting higher and higher?
Absolutely. So, and that was exactly why I wrote the book. A lot of leadership books actually show you what a good leader looks like, but they don't tell you how to become that great leader. And so with me, I call myself the poster child for that. Because in organizations, whether we want to admit them or not, we've all worked in organizations where there's politics, where there's positioning, right? And the part of advancing an organization is really about having a strategy. That strategy. And so those of us who work really, really hard, and I found out that the hard way, because I was one of those that were told, go to work, work hard, do everything you can, take on these stretch assignments, those sort of things. But what I failed to realize is that's not enough. Because
Mhm.
while we're doing that, we're also navigating politics. We're also navigating positioning, making certain that we're in the right rooms. But as someone who wanted to be in the boardroom, of course, a defining moment for me is when I thought I was a shoe in as a candidate because I was the one that did all the work. I was the one that showed up. I was the one that they called upon. And so
Mhm.
after I didn't get the position, I said, there must be something. I had a mentor in the organization. I also had but I didn't have a sponsor, if that makes sense.
Mm.
And so a mentor, that's someone that you can go to, you can talk to, and they kind of show you empathy because they've been there before. But the sponsor is the one that speaks up on your behalf. And so that's something that I did not have. And what I realized is, yes, they trusted me to get the work done, right? Because they saw the numbers, they saw the metrics, they saw all of that. But when it came to leading, that is where I fell short because of influence, having
Mm.
influence. And influence is not just something that, okay, I'm going to influence you to make this decision. Influence is really having someone speak your name when you're not in the room. And
And how you
so,
have influence.
yes. And so, yes. So I've been, like I said, I've been on both sides.
Yeah.
Realizing that a lot of us, we believe because that's what we've been told, work hard, they'll see you. But the truth is they may see you, but do you have a seat at the table? And although you have a seat at the table, are they listening? Right? And so that's the influence. And they have to be able to trust you to put you in those positions.
Yeah.
And that is, yeah. So that is really kind of the backbone of my book, my framework, because a lot of us, we really don't understand it.
We don't. And, I meet so many people in the workforce. I mean, whether they're looking, they've, been, uh, you know, I say ejected by whether they were let go or they were laid, whatever. They were rejected from from a position and they're pivoting to find their next and they're discouraged about it and they're exploring entrepreneurship and da 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 da. And many times the question is like, they just didn't like me. I know this one person didn't like me. And, I bet if I talk to the other person, it would like, well, she's great. She was great. That person was great. But it's just, and they can never really explain it. So, what the question that comes up to me having the opportunity to chat with you here is what are the decision makers actually looking for, you know, when they're looking to promote someone and how do you literally create that trust factor to have, like you said, not to have a seat, first of all, and then also have a voice in that seat.
I think it's really important, and you're exactly right. It's not necessarily that they don't like you. They must trust you because I've used to always tell the president and the CEOs that I directly reported to is the organization is their baby. You have to realize that. And you have to have enough confidence about yourself, especially in the roles that I've been in, to tell him when his baby is up and he
Mm,
believe you and he trusts you,
trust.
right? And so that is what a lot of us lack. We we believe that if we perform enough, right, it's going to get you promoted. But that's not what really gets you promoted. Trust gets you promoted, and you've shown trust by taking on these stretch assignments, right? Things that are beyond just your job. Some people say, "I'm going to stay right here in my little mix. I'm going to do really well. I'm going to, I'm making the matrix metrics are being, met, and this is where I'm going to stay." But I didn't do that. What I did is I said I was gonna be very strategic. And with me being in HR, there's about 8, maybe 9 different areas of HR. Well,
Mhm.
out of those 9, I've probably done 8 and consistently and very familiar with number 9. And I did that, 1, because how else can you become an executive HR if you don't know it all? I didn't say you have to be great in every area, but you have to be familiar, right? And then also, I could have allowed imposter syndrome to take
Mhm.
over, but I did not. I had to show up confident. I had to show up with executive presence. A lot of us don't understand what executive presence is. They think it's what we wear in the room. They think but executive presence is having a voice and knowing and having the emotional intelligence in order for us to become a leader. And so
Yes.
that plays a huge role when they're making decisions. They can compare resumes and resumes can be completely the same. But when it's the decision on who's going to lead their people, who's going to lead their organization, who's going to be able to help them with their ROI, right? Their investments, they've invested in this person, but who's going to help them with their bottom line? And it's
Mhm.
always the person that they're going to trust. And I
Yes.
use that word, but I don't use it lightly. I use it because it's the word. It is what it is. And there's a lot of individuals talk about trust, but they're looking at it from a different perspective. I look at it from an operational perspective. I'm looking at it from as a leader. Am I making the right decisions when no one's looking? Am I going to be bold enough and confident enough to speak up? Right?
Mhm.
Because if you're always a yes person, they're not going to trust you, right? Because you don't have an opinion. And so a lot of times, and then there's also not just imposter syndrome, but having the confidence and that's why so many people they get to maybe a manager or a senior level leader, but they never make it to the boardroom. And it's
Yeah, they're all
because,
mid. They stay mid.
yeah, absolutely. And so I think you have to be strategic in everything that
Mhm.
you do.
I agree. So what I'm hearing is people are optimizing for output, but the system is rewarding influence and trust. And I have to say that when I may not have had the articulation of any sorts, and definitely not the way you articulated, but I remember talking with a young lady. We were both at an executive leadership position. We were in the boardroom.
Mhm.
Except I'd only been in the company for a year when I was elevated to the boardroom, and I literally came in the bottom, and they, like, literally, like, "Consider it." I'm like, "Okay, sure." I was only here to
Mhm.
just be a staff and just, because I was hanging out, as I say. It's not trying to climb the corporate ladder, it's just wanting to work and go home. I was going through
Absolutely.
my divorce and stuff at the time, and so I remember them letting her and her entire team go. They ejected that team from the company, and it was because of performance, and all of them had been there for years, so she had been there for, like, 16 years. Since she was a young girl, grew up there, got her master's degree and everything, and I remember how she never seemed to have a full opinion.
Mhm.
And I guess they give them the team that was handling that particular project. They were all there for a long time and they sort of like took them from wherever they were and made this team for sort of quality control because they knew the company, they knew the things, and they follow it feverishly. So they just appointed them there. And that by the time I got there, they were in their second year of this being this special team, and they were all very. And we didn't have a bond because I just saw her flipping and flopping across the board, Yolanda, and I was
Huh?
like, "She's so smart, but not very smart all at the same time."
Exactly.
It's crazy. But here she was being ejected, and in our goodbye, I said, "I just wanna remind you that you're very smart. You're an amazing person." She's like, "I just can't believe this is happening to me. I would never guess. I thought I would retire here, blah, 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 grow, grow, grow." And because she opened that can of worms, I said, "Can I be honest with you? There's something I observed," because she brought up enough, and I said, I'm disagreeing with you a little bit because one thing I never saw you do was stand on your own and have an opinion about your opinion and your thought." And I said, being an excellent person who's so experienced, I said, being experienced as you are, you had to have known a lot of things. And you just didn't never say nothing. There I was, mudslinging, I told her.
Yeah.
Often. I was the voice. I was the only woman of color in the room, the only immigrant, as I pointed out to them a lot of times. And so we were serving a lot of immigrants as well. And I said, I was mudslinging. And I tell you, I know, I saw many times you were like, this is not going to go well for her because you know who you've been working with. But it
Yes.
always worked in my favor because I was earning their trust that knew what I was saying and I believed what I trusted myself and what I was saying. So they're like, maybe we should pay attention to what she's saying. And so I earned those my way up, and they find no use because she's just there to kind of rubber stamp whichever the wind is blowing. And you're not useful. And there was new leadership now
Yeah.
that she hadn't grown up with, and they were making widespread changes across this organization of over 400 plus employees and so many different programs. They are moving at a high pace.
Yes,
That's not
absolutely.
going to work. And I said, so next time I encourage you to know what you think, know what works, and stand on your 2 feet. And even if they do let you go, you would leave on your terms, because
Absolutely.
she felt like it wasn't her terms at all. Obviously, you never had a voice. You didn't let yourself speak. So a lot of times you can be ejected from an organization, a company, a role, but if you were true and trusting with yourself, right?
Absolutely. Right.
You don't feel like you failed. You're like, okay, how can I improve? How can I be better? Maybe you do get a coach like Yolanda, and you do, but at the same time, you would have a sense of ownership. And that's leadership for me. I define leadership as ownership.
Yes,
And when you
absolutely.
say trust, I'm hearing you say also, Yolanda, is like you said, the CEOs and stuff, even though they might not own these companies, it's their baby.
It's their baby.
And
Absolutely.
they give you this role as a part of caretaking and growing and helping to raise their
Mhm.
baby.
Yes.
They're going to want to know that you know what you know, and undoubtedly that you do, in order to trust you with more than just the basics of that role of changing the diaper, that role of being the one who prepares the meals, whatever. I'm being, very, but
And
you
cheek,
can
but yes,
only do that by giving yourself permission. Because they're not,
absolutely.
especially like you said, didn't have a sponsor. Someone like me who don't know anybody or whatever, that might not be the case. Along the way, you have to find a sponsor. So you're going to have to articulate and say, hey, Yolanda, you've been in HR for 20 years. You've won in this company for 5. I know I'm new to this department. How do you do this? How do you navigate dealing with Mr. Tom, who's the CEO? How do you ask her? That's the first place. Before you even open your voice in the boardroom, or
Yes.
at a meeting, is
Yes.
finding someone where your voice will not be an echo, but it will be a reflective sort of training ground for
Mhm.
what's to come. And that's where you find someone. And sometimes they're the person who's most, as they say, uppity, the person who most people probably don't like. That's the one you need to talk to
Yes,
on
absolutely.
their own to tell us about that. Why are companies losing their best people right now in 2026 with
For
all
me,
this?
yes,
And you can
absolutely.
address some of those things I talked about too.
Yeah,
Of course.
I totally agree. So for me, you said you were promoted up. I was brought in. So a headhunter search firm
Found
actually
you.
hired. So I was hired in.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a resume with them, right? So they didn't.
Right.
All they know is that apparently I interviewed well. Apparently my resume spoke for itself, and I got the job. But when I showed up, some of them didn't expect me. And
Yes.
so around that table were MDs and PhDs, and I didn't have either, not one,
Right.
right?
I know. You know how they get.
Yes. And so I knew immediately that I had to, one, create allies in that room. And the other part
Mm,
is when I spoke, it had to be something that was profound enough for them to stop and listen.
mhm.
Because initially, when I first came in, it was like everything off. Like, who is she? Did she walk in the room? Like, I would sit at the table literally, and I may not get a hello. That was initially. But
Been there.
changed all of that because I decided that I wasn't going to let imposter syndrome take over. I literally would go back to my office sometimes and say, "Oh my God, what did I get myself into?" I was still very
Into
young as well. Although
yeah,
I'd been a leader, a senior leader, but I wasn't prepared for that. I may have been prepared for the work that was in front of me, but I wasn't
yeah.
prepared for the politics.
The
And we
personalities
don't
and the
like to talk
politics.
about the politics. We don't like to talk about that. But there are politics. Whether they're good or bad, there's politics. There's positioning, and so we have to learn to navigate those. And I had to learn really quick. Like I had to learn
Uh-huh.
on the job and so a lot of times leaders believe that if I don't say something that's I'm going to be agreeable in everything, right? And if I'm not being resistant about some of their ideas or their thoughts, they're gonna wanna
They're
know, "Are
gonna
you
like
really
me.
thinking about this? Are you really
Yeah.
putting, thought into this?" And they wanna trust you to speak up when there's a need. Otherwise, they don't
Mhm.
need you in that room.
No.
That room is for thinkers. That room is for being strategic. That room is for, showing that, you have the expertise, and that's why you're there at the table.
Mhm.
And most of the
Mhm.
times you're the only one because you're a representative of that particular area. And
Mhm.
so they want to know, do you really know what you're doing? Are you comfortable enough to say, "Oh no, it can't work this way." And so
Yes.
that is a lot of being trusted. And as I stated,
Mhm.
some of that is also when we're not looking, are you making the right decisions?
Come on now.
You know?
And
And
do you need us to make the right decision? Do we have to be involved in everything you do to get
absolutely, absolutely, and so that has a lot that it plays a huge part in advancing, but like I said, it has really been you have to be strategic. I'd like to tell you a story where I found
Yes.
strategy as I look
Yes.
back on it.
Give us it in real life
Yes. So
and
I
living color.
yes, so I used to work really late. I had a really large team. So the only time I could get my work done is I would work after hours when everyone else was gone. And so I had the housekeeper for the organization would come in and empty my trash. And of course, she wanted to talk, and I would always talk to her. And so one day she came in after, maybe some months, and she said, "Miss Yolanda, I want to be just like you." And I was
Mm,
like, "Oh," I said, "What does that mean? What
right.
am I? Who am I?" And she said, "First of all, I like the way you carry yourself." She says, "And you're not judgmental of me." And she says, "I want a big office." And she said, "I've never seen a person of color in this particular role."
Mm,
And so I said, "Well, first of all, what are you doing about it?" And she says, "Nothing. I can't. I have a small child." I said, "Well, that's the first thing. If you want to make some changes, you got to make some changes and some sacrifices." But I said, "I tell you what, as soon as I get a position that I think that you would be a good fit for, I'm going to hire you." So I
mm.
hired her for the front desk.
Yes, it starts. Here begins.
People thought I had lost my mind. Don't get me wrong, there were a lot of corrections. There were a lot
Yes.
of, let's use our inside voice.
Mindset reframes.
There were some mindset things that we had to do. But I say this is that she was committed.
Mhm.
She made all the right moves and she was promoted.
Mhm.
Well, I left the organization, went to another organization after about 4 years. And I did. I promoted her a couple of times. But again, she was still in school getting her bachelor's degree.
Mhm.
And so I've never been really about Facebook and social media, mainly because of the roles that I've always been in. So I'm very private, somewhat from that perspective. But in 2016, I decided I was gonna get Facebook, and it had probably been out for years before.
Yeah, 2008, I think it's the year.
Yes. So, I received a DM, and it
Mhm,
was from her, and she said, "I wanted to tell you how you changed my life."
mm.
And I said, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "Not only did I get my bachelor's, but I just finished my master's, and I just got promoted to a senior nurse recruiter making
Whoa.
6 figures."
Yes.
Now, Tracy was amazing, and I say that, it's no secret because every once in a while, she'll
She's
put it on
she'll
yes,
share it. She'll share
yes,
it out publicly, yeah.
and so one day I congratulated her after she had been at the organization. I think she had been in a role maybe 15 years, and she said, "You were the farmer that did the planting."
Yes,
And so
yes.
that's trust.
That's
Being
trust.
able to trust someone enough that they allow you to coach them,
Mhm,
that's trust.
mhm.
That's also how you advance. 1, you
Yeah,
speak up, right? And 2, you understand that there may be a barrier, but if you find the right person in the organization, they can be your sponsor. They can speak
yes.
up for you. They can make decisions for you. And if
Mhm.
nothing else, they definitely can hire you.
They can hire you and promote
Yes,
you.
yes,
Exactly.
and promote you. So I say that to say, when I look at my framework, what I just described to you was really the transparency, which is the first letter in my framework. It's
Yes, I'm that's exactly where I'm going, so take us there. Break down the framework for
so
us.
yeah, and I'm gonna use maybe her story.
Yes.
She was very transparent about what she needed, but me as a leader was very transparent with her as well. I was transparent with telling her what she needed to do. I was also
Mhm,
transparent when there were things that needed to be corrected.
mhm,
Transparency is important as a leader. And it's
mhm,
also important as someone that wants to get where they're going. Because if you're not
mhm,
transparent and say, I need this, and you think that you want people to believe that you have everything going for yourself,
mhm.
you get stuck,
Yeah.
right? So, also in my framework is reliability.
Mhm,
And so that particular pillar is being able to show empathy
mm.
and being reliable, right? And so when I talk about being reliable, I'm talking about people that if you say you're going to do something, you do it. If you get emails, so in the organization that I'm referencing now, we had about 20,000 employees. I had a huge, like I said, I had a really big team.
Yeah.
But the one rule I had is I know we get busy because we're supporting a lot of people.
Yes.
However, we have a 24-hour rule. We must get back with those individuals that we're serving, the department leaders, the executives within 24 hours. And
Mm.
so, that's reliability. Saying that you're going to do something and you show up and you get it done. The other part, I think I used empathy, but that is the U is the empathy and understanding. That's a
Mhm.
pillar that all leaders must have. You have to understand not only the situation, but for those folks that work for you, who you're leading.
Yes.
Have that empathy. Understand when there's challenges. Be there to help them figure it out. Demonstrate some emotional intelligence. We psychological safety. We don't do enough of that. We don't create spaces for our employees to give us recommendations, but although they're the ones that's in the trenches every day. So psychological safety and EQ is extremely important.
Mhm.
And so again, the S of course is being strategic, taking on those stretch roles, being strategic who you speak to. Being strategic if you need something more than just a high school diploma or a bachelor's degree or whatever it is. In my case, I needed to take a 4-hour exam in order for me to get my certification in human resources. But be strategic in doing that because there are a lot of moves that I could not make if I didn't have it.
Without a
That right. And so, and the other one is the transformation pill. That is being, you make a transformation after you've done all the work. That's when transformation shows up. After you, like I said, being transparent, reliable, showing empathy, being strategic, it always brings a transformation for individuals. And so
yeah.
that is one of the things that I've always taught to my employees or those individuals that I mentor. I talk about the trust framework because if you follow it, and it's a simple framework, but people don't understand, but that is what gets you promoted. You
Mhm.
know, trustworthy is one thing. I trust you. You're right. But putting all those pillars together is what make a great leader. And that's how to become a great leader.
Yes,
Like I
exactly.
said, some people tell you what great leaders look like, but they don't tell you how to become a great leader.
Exactly. How to become is so important. The question that came to mind is which one of those pillars do leaders seem to struggle with the most? And why do you think they're struggling with it? And I'm pretty sure I got to guess, but I'm going to let you tell us because you have the expertise widespread.
I think most leaders struggle with transparency. And let
Mm,
me tell you why. Once we become leaders, we want everyone to believe that we have it all together,
come on.
right? And so we don't have that openness, that clarity, being authentic, because people, it's like anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're authentic with them, the guards go down.
Mm-hmm.
Then it creates the culture for psychological safety, emotional intelligence. It creates a culture that allow your employees to speak up. Like I said, they're the ones in the trenches. And so
Yeah.
when you look at retention, well, first of all, before you retain them, you have to engage them. And so that is one of the things. It's also one of the programs that I created. And I don't know if that was in my bio, but it was a national program and it was an
Yes.
onboarding program. And so
Yes.
I believe that before they become employees, when you're recruiting them, that's when we show up, right? We're transparent with them. And so the system is that you bring them in being transparent, you engage them into the organization right away because most employees dis- decide if they're going to stay with that organization within the first 90 days.
I know I do.
Yes. That's what research says.
I'm going to keep my job search going heavily, just medium,
Absolutely.
or
Yes.
we'll take a break for a while. Pick one, but
Absolutely. Yes.
decisions are being made. I mean, I gotta make that decision in the job interview based because I ask a lot of questions in job interview. So by the time they answer, I'm like, well, if they offer me this positions, here are the pros, and this is why I would take it. But here's why I may not keep it if it is offered.
Absolutely. Speaking of that, when you ask questions in you everywhere we have a kind of we can discern. We have a discernment when we're in interviews. And so if they don't come across authentic and transparent,
When they're
we're
not
not
developing that
trusting
trust with
them.
us. Yes, because we're strategic, right?
Absolutely.
We're strategic, that S in your framework. And so if they aren't strategic enough to cover up the glaring loopholes in their thought system, because I ask questions, Yolanda, like, so each of you on the panel, if you don't mind taking a moment to share how long you've been with the organization, some of the things you absolutely love about what you get to do here, and then some of the things that you would change.
Absolutely.
So I know there have been in interviews where I completely ticked an executive off and I was
Yes.
not going to get hired
Right.
because they already see who I am. And I tell individuals, I am the person who's going to contribute. I'm going to take ownership in my role. I'm going to go 110 for that company. I'm taking ownership. It's like it was mine. It's like I've been there from the beginning, but I took a break and I'm back. You name it, whatever. So based on that, I am fine if they reject me at the interview stage with that look, with the ultimate don't hire her. Maybe I've been in positions where I've gotten hired and I knew who did not agree for me to be hired, and it was 5 out of 7. I know. I was at the interview, and so I'm fine with it. Now my job is to earn their trust and their respect, and for me, even like you said, the reliability. I will show myself not by doing more, but by letting them see, yes, I may be someone that you've never met before, because a lot of young executive leaders are still protective of who's coming to take my position. They got the imposter syndrome running in the back of their head. I'm not taking responsibility for that, but I'm also going to see their struggle and to support what my contribution is, kind of play to it in a bit. Again, strategy. So there's just, I told people one of the things I marinated in as a young woman, I studied business in high school. We got to major. They're now starting to introduce that here in Arizona where you're majoring in streams. Big part of what this administration is one of the things I actually like about what they want to do with the education system. But I was going to be a corporate shark. That's all I was like, okay, I don't want to get married. I don't want to have kids. I'm going to be I'm climb the corporate ladder and be all over and I'll be at the top of the building in New York. This is me living in Guyana. I saw the skyscrapers, my office with the view and everything. I must have
I
watched
was
some
right there
movie.
with
I must have watched some movie when I was younger and it got in my head because they talked me out of being a judge and an attorney because they said I'll just be horrible to men who hit women and stuff. I believe that might have been true. I don't know, but you take on everything people are telling you when you're young, and that was the thing. And then I remember I'm like, you know what? As I got older, Yolanda, my goal, even in corporate, is to help leaders see and value, do the work that's from within first, healing
absolutely.
themselves, being, neurodiverse and trauma informed to take care of themselves and then lead from that place with all the wonderful other things that people teach about leadership. But it's first lead yourself and then grow yourself. And while you're doing that, now you're able to create becoming a trustworthy, reliable, empathetic, strategic, transformational leader that you can be. So that was what I pivoted to. So I went into organizational management and leadership, but it's still, even corporations didn't quite, now we're catching on to it. Organizational leadership has become more universities has it as a degree. We're doing positive psychology and all of that, but that wasn't really a thing back then. And
No, you're
so
right.
it wasn't a thing I'm talking 90s, early 2000s. We are just now picking up that where we're speaking about EQ and IQ and how those two matter and how they work together and things like that. But again, you're going to have to be strategic, and it's from that interview. And if they don't like you, they don't like you. That's not the place for you, and be good with it. Go through. And I tell people in their job search, and the more skilled you have, better resume, the more degrees and qualification. It seems harder, but trust the process. And I tell people, take a position part-time or whatever to keep the economy going. If you didn't get a severance, if you don't have money, don't settle, but take something that just might not even be in alignment with what you've been doing all along. Sometimes you need to try a different industry, but don't settle. Don't
Don't
settle for
settle.
stay and be miserable because you're getting a six
Agree
figure.
with you.
No, that is misery. That's the number one problems with a lot of leaders. They make decisions personally from a perspective of scarcity.
Yes, absolutely.
How are you going to gain trust? People do business with those who they know, like, and trust. And that goes for everything.
Everything. That's exactly right. Whether you're an employee or an entrepreneur, know, like, and trust is so important. Those are the basics. And
Literally, you
again,
can't do nothing.
it's currency,
That is what we
right?
opened up this episode with.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, to your point, even in an interview and asking questions, that's extremely important because it shows them. And so, if anyone has an issue with that, you don't want to be there anyway,
They're not your
right?
people.
Yes. And I'm not that person, right? And I've been there. I've been there. And the one thing, again, is being strategic, even if it's in your interview, you want to be strategic about, because here's the thing. I always say, especially when I was in interviews, and even like I said, hearing how they made their decisions, talking with other department heads, how did you make your decision? Not only do they want them to ask questions and be strategic, because here's the deal, they're bringing you on and they're going to trust you with a role that they don't have time to sit there and babysit, right? And so they're trusting you to bring in your expertise, and not only that, maybe improve it, right?
Yes.
And when they make their decisions, they really make the decisions based upon, is this a person that's going to just come and the department is going
Be
to stay
complacent.
exactly the way it is? Or is this someone that's going to bring new ideas, be strategic in how they get those done? And is this someone that their employees are going to trust enough to follow?
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Especially when you're coming in that leadership spot. The question that pops in my head though, what is one of the pillars that you teach that people think they have, but actually don't? Because that's another thing.
Strategy.
Come on now.
It's
That would be my
strategy.
guess too.
Yes,
Yeah.
because they're like, "Well, I'm being strategic. Like, I just took this role or I took that role." But strategic is not only are you taking roles, but how are you navigating the organization, right?
Mhm.
And so you must be strategic. You have to know when to speak up. You have to know when to be transparent. And then being reliable, that's important. But being strategic is what adds to the bottom line of any organization,
Exactly.
right? And
Exactly.
so, in order for them to even get to the transformation, what they're looking for, they have to be strategic in how they get there. And so, so many individuals like, well, I'm strategic. Like, I moved to this role or I did this. But did you have the right conversations?
And don't confuse manipulation. Manipulation is a type of strategy, but it is not strategic
Yes.
in its holistic sense. Because people are just manipulative, and I'm like,
Right.
you're
And
manipulating
then
things and people, but you're not
yeah,
strategic. It's going to catch up with you. That actually is more
absolutely. And a
strategy.
lot
Yeah.
of times they think, okay, I'm gonna just go along with this person because this is the person that can make the decision for me. Sometimes
You'll
they're
be
looking for
surprised by
you.
that same person too.
Yes. You'll be surprised because sometimes they're looking to, like I said, have that, not only just that executive presence, but also be confident in and like I said, when you stand on something, stand on it. Don't
Stand
let them
on
sway you.
business.
Stand
Yes.
on business. And
Yes,
so,
own it and make and the reason and Yolanda, if I can add, and I want to hear what your thoughts are. Strategy is information getting. Is so
absolutely.
you're over like you had the lady who was the cleaner. Hospitality is what we call it professionally, right? She's hospitality. But strategic is having knowledge. You had a relationship, your R, with her, so now you were able to position her in a place that is needed in your organization. It wasn't, I mean, yeah, you did an amazing thing for her, but that was strategy for your organization as well. And that made everyone look like, okay, she's lost her mind. But if she has promoted the janitor to a role, what would she do for me?
Absolutely.
You know? So that's strategy even. There's information is knowing the people who are on your team, knowing their roles, understanding the core and the core competencies of the organization, and then the personal ambitions of the people who are at the top.
Absolutely.
Being
And
aware
all
of
of
that
it
and
goes
then
back.
seeing what the competitors do. What's the latest psychology in that area? Under strategy is a wheelhouse of information getting and knowledge. The most aware knowledge person who's able to take that knowledge and apply it for me is the most strategic. And
Absolutely.
a lot of times it's the patience.
Yes.
I think you talked about this, the patience of when to
Yes.
release. the right doses of that knowledge you've gained and the information you have, how you release the information, where you plug it in, who you plug in, when you plug in, all of that strategy for me, right? Because
Yes,
strategy, if people just think about manipulation, it could, if you want to call it that, it depends because words mean different things to different people. But if you're just going to like, oh, I'll play this one against this one. Okay, go. She said that. Oh, I got her. I'm going to go let the boss know. I'm going to let CEO know. Oh,
absolutely.
she's been talking
Yes,
smack about. Now you just look like a hot mess to them and you didn't realize it. So then they overlook you and they bring someone. This is how Yolanda got hired from the outside and you didn't get the promotion. Now you're mad, but you're
yes,
messy. That's your
yes.
strategy is mess, right?
It's very easy. Believe it or not, it's extremely easy for them to see that. And again, like I say this all the time, as you're being strategic, you also must be very resilient
Mm-hmm.
because being patient, being resilient when you've been told no, because so many of us, when we've been told no, we
Over and
go
over.
to our corner and said, that's it. I'm not giving anymore. I'm gonna be here. I like to call it roadkill, retired on active duty. But I'm gonna I'm just gonna show up. I'm gonna give you 20 hours for the 40-hour week,
Come on.
you
That's
know?
that's what many people retreat
And
to, yeah.
so, but rather than saying, you know what, not this time,
Mhm.
but the next time, because I'm gonna go get more information, talk to the right people, also prepare myself.
Mhm.
So when it's the next time, I'm ready.
Yes. Absolutely.
And again, not allow, imposter syndrome to shut you down.
Mhm.
That is one of the biggest issues, especially for women in organizations, because no matter what anyone says, leadership is male dominant.
Yes, yes. It is
I
the
don't care what organization you go to. That is the and so, but we have to be strategic enough to say, when I get into those rooms, they're not gonna just hear my voice, but they're gonna buy into what I have to say.
absolutely.
And sometimes it's showing up and being the agitator in the room
Yeah,
or the
and
disruptor
understand
in your
and be
work.
ready to take what comes with it too. Is yeah.
Absolutely.
I've many
Absolutely.
times play that role because I have the gift of oversight in operational systems
Mhm.
that is, you know, I thought everyone who's in leadership has it. I realized that's actually a gift. And it's actually something you've worked at becoming even better at over time. So you can see. And it's like I can quickly say, but because I have that gift, I know to do my research and look and know soundly. So when I say, I hear what you're saying and I see how that would work. But here's what we have. Here's what's happening every day. Here's what's occurring. Here's who we're dealing with. That has proof that wouldn't work in its entirety. We might need to go this way a little bit.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts? Then think about that. Good idea, Lisa. Or someone's like, no, that would absolutely. And it's like, okay. And I remember someone saying, oh, it just seems like I'm like, no, this, because they're new again to leaders, like, this is exactly how this works.
Mhm.
We're going to sit here. We have three different perspectives and they all have value. Now let's come together for the one perspective that we walk out of here with that we apply. And if it doesn't work, we're going to try something else because that's what leadership is. That's what the
Exactly
task
right.
is. We're here for it. Like, I don't want you to agree with me because I think so. Now,
Right.
trust and believe. If I open my mouth, I'm loaded.
And you're gonna be prepared for it.
I've been
Exactly.
prepared for this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So even though I didn't know this was coming, I've been thinking about this every day. Some of the last things I think about before I leave this building. Okay. So I'm on it. I've been studying this for months. So
Absolutely.
you're not
And
ready
so,
for
like
me,
I
but we're
said,
going to go because you're going to probably
absolutely.
make my perspective even better because you have a vision and an angle that I have not seen. So it has to be that you disagree and with me at some parts of it so we can perfect the thing that I might have the basics, but now we need you to put the other pillars so this thing stands strong against the test of time. And if I don't have that, I don't want you. I tell people who work with me, I said, if you're just going to show up in our meetings and you don't contribute, I said, when we're doing a new logo, or we're doing new branding, or we're doing new anything, I want the team. I don't care which part of my team, whether you're the person who edits, I want your fingerprint on it, because when it comes to editing, you have that vision of what that final product looks like. So I need your
Absolutely.
input. I don't want you to tell me it's nice. Well, I saw
Right.
you posted in your stories. I'm like, yeah, so people in my stories can give feedback. I still need yours.
Oh,
Just because I put on my stories, it don't mean it's public. Only certain people go in my stories, and my stories has a limited view anyway.
yeah.
I only let certain people see certain things. You can do
Right.
that with social media.
Right.
So I know they're gonna sit like, oh, I saw your new logo. That looks good. Oh, what is that? I don't know if I like that, Alisa. And those are, I got trusted people around me, maybe one or two, that will give me feedback because I put it there. And sometimes just hearing other people's response is also like a market testing without making it fully public. Your opinion, I still need it. Don't bypass on giving me compliments about it, because I get
Absolutely.
creative and I go down rabbit holes that I don't need to be down. I need
And
you
so
to
what
keep me
you're
straight as my marketing team.
absolutely. And so what you're doing is you're implementing a trust system. And again, it is about, and I tell organization this, it's executive alignment,
Yes.
ensuring that every alignment from the top. That's how you
Mhm.
create a trust driven organization.
Absolutely.
So allowing individuals to do what they're best in doing, right?
And
And
trusting
trusting
their
them.
expertise. Yes, because that's the thing. As you might be fairly new to my team, I want to be able to not have to even mess with this kind of stuff in
Mhm.
the next few months. I just want you to take it. So while us having these discourse over this, you're getting a feel for me. I'm getting a feel for you. And so the only way we're going to do that is open dialogue and validating each other's perspective, and
Absolutely.
sometimes disagreeing back and forth for a minute and then finally find it. Disagreeing does not mean you have conflict.
Right. Absolutely.
Disagreement is not conflict in its entirety at all.
No,
Conflict is when you don't, and even if it's conflict, it's fine as long as
it
you're
is
doing it
fine.
healthily.
Yes, absolutely. Again, that goes back to the psychological safety. It's
Hmm.
okay to disagree. It's
Yeah.
okay to tell me why you disagree.
Yeah.
And then I need to trust you to do your job. I need you
Yes.
to trust you that you're telling me something that, again, because it's not my expertise. That's why we
Yes.
hired you, right? And
Right.
so that is the system that I'm speaking of.
Yes.
That is, and so that's why you have to look at it as a system, as an operating system, because if you look at it just because it's the word trust, that could mean anything. But again, it's the alignment. And so, especially in organization, a lot of them talk about their culture. But what do your culture really say? What is really the currency and what actually adds to the bottom line? If if you start with trust, your financial systems will be great. Your day to day activities will be okay, great. Everything that you do, every department that you touch, and I've worked in some amazing organizations. The 3 Fortune 100s I've worked in, I think the smallest one was maybe 10,000. But here's the thing, with that many people, you have to have the trust
Yes.
in the organization
Clear.
because it takes everyone.
It's like the blood cells.
It's funny you say that because I was just getting ready to bring up an example. Just coming out of cancer
Yeah.
and being in remission. The one thing I went to MD Anderson, which is supposed to be one of the top organizations in the country
Yes.
that cure cancer. And as a matter of
Yeah.
fact, that's what their logo says. We cure cancer.
Mhm.
I remember when they came up with that logo because I worked for part of the UT system, which is MD Anderson.
Wow.
And when they looked at we cure cancer, they weren't speaking about the doctors and the researchers.
Ah,
The person that helps cure cancer is the person that the transportation person that is taking you out of your car, putting you in a wheelchair to go get your treatment.
yes.
That's the system I'm speaking of.
Mm,
Everyone's bought into that.
yeah,
Everyone, and it takes everyone. So when an organization have a mission and vision, trust must be tied to that. You must
yes.
trust the person all the way down to the person that is getting this person from their transportation in their automobile to where they need to go to be treated for cancer.
Mhm, mhm.
That's the system. That's the system approach. And
Yes,
so I speak about that a lot because there are some organizations that the trust stops at the executive level. And sometimes even then, they're not aligned,
exactly.
right? So having that alignment and having an actual system in the organization. And I also talked about, I spoke of not only having trust in the organization, but also ensuring that everyone knows what the mission of the
Yes.
organization.
Look, exactly, and breeding it into them, and and that again is how if you don't you have to build those the trust to be able to get them to be buy into that vision.
And that's the strategic, that is also the strategic part because the transformation is patients get cured. Transformation is employees are engaged, so you're
Mm.
retaining them. They're not leaving,
Yes, I love that.
right?
That's beautiful. Yolanda, oh my goodness, time went by so quickly with us.
Yeah.
So we have to I know you shared a little bit, but as leaders, we all deal with all of the glory, and then there's also the story. The successful leaders like yourself. Tell us about a moment when you had to flip the script of your own leadership journey. I'm pretty sure. And what mindset shift changed everything for you?
Mindset changed. You said something early on that sometimes you have to take a step back in order for you to take a step forward. After working for, and like I said, I've worked for some incredible organizations, but one, I was extremely tired because I
Mm,
had a large organization, metrics driven, and I was tired. I
yeah.
had some things going on with my health. And one day I don't even know where this came from. But normally I had a long commute, normally about an hour commute. And so normally that's when I meditate, um, and sometimes pray on the way to work, whatever I needed to do. But
Mhm.
this particular time, don't ask me why I said it, but I tapped my parking garage key card and I said it out loud, Lord, deliver me from this place.
Mm,
When I said that, I wasn't thinking really, and that's why you have to be careful about what you speak.
yes.
But when I spoke that, it was already in motion. I just didn't know it.
Mm,
I was being moved. And so that was on a Monday after the weekend. On a Friday, I got called by our senior executive of HR, and she says, we've had an auditor in the organization, and they've decided to remove the middle management, which at that time I was mid management.
management, yeah.
So it was a step back for me. But
Yeah.
the job that I took went after that was not nearly the salary I was making at this other organization.
Mm,
But after 2 years, I pretty much tripled that.
see? You
It
wouldn't
was
have been
about
able
the
to do that.
moment.
Yeah.
And so I could have easily said, "No, I'm gonna wait around," because I'd got a nice severance package, a whole
Yeah.
year service,
That sounds the good ones. Yeah.
yeah, executive search firm to work with. I could have easily done that. But I said, "No, it's in a different." This is when I went to the energy sector. And
Mhm.
so I'd never worked in the energy sector. So it was something new. So I knew I had to start from the bottom.
Mhm.
And actually, I didn't really start from the bottom. It was a less, as far as the title, it was less, and the responsibility was a little less, but it was still an important role. But my decision to join this company was only based upon, again, being strategic because I've always wanted to be in the energy sector.
Right. Yeah, that's a
And
really
here,
good sector.
this was my shot. This is my shot at it, right? And so, but having that mindset, and I was put in a position where I didn't have a choice, right?
Mm,
And so that was a pivotal moment for me because then what I realized is you can take, like you said, there's glory, and what I
yes.
like to call is there's
Everything
some
in between.
traumatic
Yeah.
experience. But it's not, it's how you handle it. And again, it's about being strategic,
Gee.
strategy. And then the one thing I also say is trust the process.
Mm.
I didn't question it. I just went along with it.
Yep. Yep. I love that. Oh my goodness. I just said that to my coaching team yesterday. And
Did
I
you?
said, this word is used a lot, trust the process, but trust me, when you see things going in a different way than what you planned, if you just embrace it at
Absolutely.
100 and go, you will end up right where you want to go, where you want it to go. And you'll actually sometimes end up much sooner than you think. It's the resistance that delays, not
Absolutely.
the journey. The
You're
resistance is
exactly
the
right.
delay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you define success for yourself, my great sister?
So success for me is being able to impact the lives of so many people. In the 30 years being in human resources, I think people take it for granted
Uh,
because we think that we're working with employees. We think that we're keeping individuals employed.
yes.
But the way I always saw it when I was in corporate before I, started my own consulting is I saw a family attached to these individuals. So I was always sure that I needed to make the right decision when I
Yeah.
was making a decision on individuals.
Mm,
And so success for me is being able to walk in a room that I was recruited for, but not necessarily welcome to.
yeah.
But I took that opportunity to sharpen my skills and build my confidence. And it has taken me throughout life. And that
Yeah.
is not only just on the job, but that is in my personal life as well.
As well, because
My dad
that
used to
part
always
of
tell
trust
me,
is it being the same too.
trust is being the center. My
Yeah.
dad used to tell me from a little girl, nothing beats failure but a try. And
Mm,
so because of that, I was like, even when they say no, even when I think they're going to say no, I'm going to step up anyway. That's where you find the success. Being resilient
yes.
when things aren't just perfect.
Yep, that's true success. I love that. Oh my goodness. Mindset bites to go. I'm going to step away from the microphone and the camera. And what I would love for you to do for our listeners and viewers, Yolanda, is for those people who they might need to understand what they need to understand about trust right now. Maybe one thing that they can do to make a change that might change their trajectory of their leadership and their work and life right now, what would that be? I'm just gonna step away from the microphone and the camera is just gonna be you and the listeners and viewers.
So
There
I
we go.
love that. The number one thing that I believe all individuals need to know is that you can actually navigate politics, things that you find that are not working well for you. You can navigate those things without compromising who you are. Too many times we take our jobs and our personal lives too serious. We want the best. We want it quickly. We want it to happen now. But in order for us to really and truly be successful, as I told Lisa, you must be able to use the trust framework. Be transparent. If it's something that you don't know, be okay with asking. Be okay with seeking out someone that can make a difference in your life. It is great to have a mentor, but it's better when you have a sponsor because sponsors are the ones that actually speak up for you when you're not in the room. The other very important thing for you as you go through this framework is to remember the influence. You must carry influence. You must be influential, even when you're not in the room. You want people to say, well, I wonder what Yolanda would say if she wasn't, you know, she's not here, but how do you think she's going to react to this decision? That's what influence is. Influence is making the per- the individuals that are making the decisions also question their decisions because you also play a role. The other part of that is trust the process. I said it before, I say it again. Trust is a framework for me, not just because about being honest or compromising who you are, but it is a framework, being transparent, being reliable. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you say that you're gonna call someone back, call them back. I shared that on my LinkedIn earlier. But also the reliability, but then be understanding. Things may not go your way all the time. Show empathy for individuals that may not get it right the first time. But it's up to you as a great leader to help them make it through. Being some emotional intelligence, having empathy for those individuals in which we lead, and also those that we report to. Try to understand where they're coming from. And the other thing is being strategic. I cannot say that enough. This is not just about being strategic and jumping from one job to the other, but being strategic in who you're speaking to, being strategic, ensuring that you have the skills, the knowledge, what we call KPIs as well, having the knowledge about this particular role that you're particularly interested in, and maybe just making certain that you keep yourself informed. It may not have to do with you personally, but keeping yourself informed of the what, the when, and the why is always important because why is always important because why are you interested? What can it do for you? And so the other part is not only being strategic, but the transformation happens after all of that. In order for you to be a great leader, you must be able to transform those that are working with you. Based upon the example I gave you, I could have brushed Tracy off. I could have told her, there's no way that you would get to the role that I am because you don't have a degree. But instead, as a great leader, I positioned her in order for her to be successful because that's what great leaders do, right? So as you navigate organizations, and although there's politics, and there's politics everywhere, remember that. You don't have to compromise who you are. Because I would say that most of us are great people. But sometimes we want things so bad that we end up compromising our integrity. You don't want to do that. So go out, be great, and remember the trust framework will get you advancement every time. Thank you.
And it sure will. I love it. Oh my goodness, Yolanda, that was good too. I gotta ask you, tell us about your book and how we can connect with you because we're definitely gonna want to dive into this. I know there's going to be a part 2 and probably 3 coming because we have a couple other topics we opened up that we couldn't cover today.
Yes, absolutely. So, Trust Advantage, that is the book, and it also has a workbook that goes along with it that says Trust the Climb. The Trust the Climb, the workbook is really how do you put these things in action. So, in order to find that, you go to www.yolandakdavisbooks.com, and that's where you can locate the book and the workbook. I sell those in a bundle. You can also reach me on LinkedIn at Yolanda K. Davis. It is just a K as in the initial. Yolanda K. Davis, and YolandaKDavis.com. You can reach me there as well.
Absolutely. And
Follow
you
me
won't
on
know.
Instagram. I'm not on Instagram as much, but you can definitely find me on LinkedIn.
Yes, she is. And she's always adding amazing value on socials. And I'm going to get my copy for our next episode so we can dive in a little bit more into the framework. I love it. So listen, disruptors, if you're listening to this and realizing you've been over indexing and you're on performance at all, you're just keep doing more, but you're underbuilding that trust. This has definitely been a wake-up call for all of us because we can always grow in that area to get further, to go deeper, and even expand wider. Stop trying to prove your value and start positioning your influence. Keep mastering your mindset. Think, speak, do, become. I'm Dr. Alisa, and we will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.